Since its inception, Premier League football has been dominated by one team, Manchester United. Thanks in part to former manager Sir Alex Ferguson, United were the most hated team in England, and whether it was a late controversial winner or they fielded one guy you just couldn't stand, we all can admit that Manchester United was absolutely incredible in the 1990s and 2000s. From the time that he was appointed in 1986 and from the time until he retired in 2012, Manchester United won a total of 38 trophies, including 13 Premier League titles, 5 FA Cups, and 2 Champions Leagues. But after he left, Manchester United has been in a free fall and has dealt with much more mediocrity and disappointment than they are used to. So what exactly happened to Manchester United? In today's video, we'll be looking back at their recent history and exploring what has led to their downfall. The downfall really began after Ferguson retired. It was already going to be a tough task to replace a manager who not only changed the club, but also the game itself. So a year of rebuilding was probably going to be expected. Maybe they'd compete for a trophy and get some crucial points and win some crucial games in a challenge for the title, and it wouldn't be that bad of a season. But that was supposed to happen for one season, not the next 7 and beyond. To replace Sir Alex, they ultimately decided on then Everton manager David Moyes. Now, Moyes wasn't a world-class manager by any means, but he had a decent amount of success with Everton, and even got them into the Champions League qualifying rounds one year. Add that into the fact that he was young and was expected to grow with United, and the hire wasn't that bad to start. But not only did Ferguson retire, their current chief executive David Gaal, who had held the position for the last decade, retired as well. Replacing him will be the infamous Ed Woodward, who had helped raise United's commercial value over the last few years and was a mysterious but promising hire. However, his first transfer window was a disaster. They brought in just one player in the entire transfer window, which was former Everton midfielder Marouane Fellaini, and although it was for a good price at the time, it was still a disappointing window as the team wasn't getting any younger and needed something more than just a midfielder. The criticism didn't bode well with the slow start, as United lost 3 of their first 6 games and were 9th in the table in early December. But they advanced far into the League Cup that year and proceeded to end December positively, so things weren't too bad. But by the end of January, things got worse. By then, United was out of the FA Cup, the League Cup, and fell back to 7th in the league. But they would also make another signing, as they brought in Juan Mata for over 35 million euros. But it wouldn't help, as they proceeded to lose in the quarterfinals of the Champions League to Bayern and remained around the 7th place mark for the rest of the season. Everton, who lost David Moyes and Fellaini to United, would end up finishing higher than them in the league, so there were no trophies, no competition, and no Champions League for Manchester. Because of the disastrous season, the disappointment was felt everywhere, and as a result, Moyes didn't even last a full season and was sacked just before it ended. United quickly got busy in order to get out of this nightmare. Dutch manager Louis van Gaal was brought in to lead the squad, and United signed Ander Herrera, Luke Shaw, Marcos Rojo, Daley Blind, Angel Di Maria, and then got Radamel Falcao on loan. They also got rid of some older players as Nemanja Vidic, Rio Ferdinand, Patrice Evra, Shinji Kagawa, and Danny Welbeck all left the team. Now, with no pressure of the Champions League, United had a lot of opportunity to develop players and improve. But after just 5 games, they garnered 5 points, and the realization set in that this project was going to take a while. Things got even worse when they lost to MK Dons 4-0 in the second round of the League Cup, and the outrage just continued to grow. But things got better as the season went on, and United rose up as high as 3rd place before a late 3-game stretch of no goals saw them finish the season in 4th. There would once again be no trophies as United lost to Arsenal in the FA Cup 6th round. Things still weren't as good as they could have been, and the Red Devils' leading scorer that season was Wayne Rooney, with just a total of 14 goals across 3 competitions. With the Champions League berth once again upon them, United realized they needed to massively revamp the squad once again for the 2015 season. Tom Cleverley, Robin van Persie, Nani, Rafael, Angel Di Maria, Johnny Evans, and Javier Hernandez were all sold off or let go, and to replace them, United signed Memphis Depay, Morgan Schneiderlin, Matteo Darmian, Bastian Schweinsteiger, Sergio Romero, and Anthony Martial. The season started off as a disappointing one, but actually ended off successful. United were eliminated from the Champions League in the group stage and lost in the 4th round of the League Cup, and after a hot start in the league, they hovered around the 5th place mark for the entire season, where they ultimately ended up. Still, United won the FA Cup over Crystal Palace to finally deliver some silverware back to Manchester. With that 5th place finish, United was destined for the Europa League, but still managed to bring in Paul Pogba, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Eric Bailly, and Henrik Mkhitaryan in the preceding 2016 summer transfer window. Pogba was of course the biggest get, but there was also a lot of hype surrounding the managerial hire. With Louis van Gaal leaving after the 2015 and 2016 season, United needed a new manager, and with Jose Mourinho recently getting sacked at Chelsea, United scooped him up to rival Manchester City and Pep Guardiola. And in their first season, United did pretty well. They won the Community Shield over Chelsea, defeated Southampton in the EFL Cup, went on an unbeaten run that lasted from the end of October to the end of April, and defeated Ajax to win the Europa League, so they won almost everything that they could have. But despite this mini treble, the unbeaten run, and Zlatan leading the way for Manchester, they would only finish in 6th in the league, but because they won the Europa League, they gained a spot back in the Champions League. But the next 2 seasons would be disappointing for Manchester United once again. They had another strong transfer window in 2017, bringing in striker Romelu Lukaku to pair with Zlatan and compete for the Premier League title, but they finished 19 points off Manchester City to finish in 2nd place, which was still their highest finish in years. But they once again were eliminated from the Champions League, this time in the round of 16, and lost in the FA Cup final to Chelsea, and 2018 would be the end of Jose in Manchester, as he was fired in December after a bad spell, and plenty of criticism coming from everywhere. Replacing him would be Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who reignited some fire into the side after they came back in the Champions League round of 16 against PSG. He started off fast and was promoted full-time as a result, but his fast start soon wore off, and United were currently in the worst shape that they have been in a long time. With bad results away from home, a record low amount of goals being scored, and the theater of dreams no longer being a dream, they have fallen so far. Currently, there are a few points off the relegation zone and have had their worst league start ever. There's been so much public outcry and rage, and with all these bad results, it's not even funny anymore. But now that we know some of their recent history, what happened to Manchester United? The first thing we can look at is that the managers that have been brought in to replace Sir Alex. We've had David Moyes, LVG, Jose Mourinho, and now Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. All of them have not been up to par with Ferguson in terms of tactics, simple football knowledge, and decisions. The big problem with Moyes was said best by Rio Ferdinand, who said that, "I remember the first couple of games against Liverpool and Chelsea. We were talking more about Hazard and Coutinho than we were about our own attacking tactics. There's doubt, and players there looking at each other thinking, this isn't us, we're not used to this." And you can even see the younger players looking around going, whoa, we're better than them. We won the league last year and we can beat them. With Van Gaal, the problem lied with his tactical incompetence. United just couldn't score goals during his time as the manager, and at one point had the most passes per chance during the season with around 72 passes, and that may have come down to him moving players around and playing them in the wrong position. Not enough attacking was demanded, and the attacks themselves were slow, and nothing could be accomplished because of it. The problem with Jose Mourinho was that he was far too defensive. The fans didn't like it, and more likely than not, the players didn't like it either. Once United started conceding, however, it was almost a wrap. Too many boring draws or close losses came mainly because they were too defensive, and while his defense won Jose games, it ultimately led to his sacking. Next up would be the chairman and Ed Woodward. The Glazers and Woodward are constantly brought up with Manchester United, and for good reason too. They are at the heart of this downfall. Time and time again, they have either kept money and not spent any, or spent a ton of money with no quality to show for it. Think about all the names and players I listed in this video alone, and think about how many positively impacted the squad or even remain in the team now. And if you look at United's present day squad, how many of these guys can even walk into another top 6 side? They have one of the highest wage bills in the Premier League and yet have nothing to show for it. Players being signed past their prime, or players being signed in situations where they couldn't succeed, are at the forefront of the reasons why those players failed. But you can count on your hand how many of these signings have actually worked. But with the amount of money spent, there needs to be much more in terms of quality. We can also look at the players themselves. A bunch of guys have just underperformed or don't look up for the challenge, and that has come with this new identity at the club. The big question is, who are Manchester United? The players don't even know anymore, because the same hunger that Sir Alex Ferguson's teams once had doesn't exist at the club anymore. Guys like Wayne Rooney came out to play every game like it was his last. They fought for every second of possession and fought till the end of games. How many of the players in the squad can you say that for now? And you add all of this together and it creates the results that you see on the field. The majority of the top 6 has just done more than United have to see them win major trophies that United want. Manchester City and Liverpool, arguably 2 of United's biggest rivals, have consistently made their team better over time and found themselves a world-class manager that they believe in and that they will back. And United have yet to do both. Manchester United has a lot of soul searching to do over this next season. It's not even funny how bad of a shape that they are in, it's just truly upsetting. A team with this much quality and this much recognition should not be this bad. But what's common in sports is that teams go through dry spells just as quickly as they can become successful, and that has just happened to Manchester United. Liverpool had to go through it as well, and although the process was long and painful, look at where they are now. United need to clean house from top to bottom, back whoever is going to be the next manager, find elite talent, and develop the players on the roster. The crazy thing to think about though is that despite this free fall, United has still been able to win a few trophies and still remain at least among the top 6 and put themselves in a position to win. But in Manchester, greatness is demanded and the spell just hasn't been good enough. Manchester United will surely be back at the top of the Premier League and Europe soon, but a lot has to be done to make sure that that dream comes true. And as always, only time will tell just how fast Manchester United can return back to their old form. This has been a video on the downfall of Manchester United. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you're new, and as always, I will see you guys next time.